Hey everybody, thanks for taking some time to check out this week's PDR Sports Webcast. I'm Dan and he's Travis, and oh boy, Travis, I sure hope nobody followed my lead with their Final Four picks because I was awful. Three of the four teams that I picked out of the tournament already, so that's no fun. But we'll get to more on the NCAA men's basketball tournament in a bit. First, let's put a bow on the area winter sports, basketball, wrestling, and hockey in the area. Done for the winter now with Westfield's sectional semifinal loss to Prairie du Chien a week ago on Thursday night. So Travis, now we look ahead towards the spring, but first, a couple of your highlights from this winter.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously cover a bunch of games, over the winter months. And I just sat down and kind of thought about, what were some of the better games or the things that stood out from the winter season. There was two games that came to mind. Way back in December on boys basketball, Rio and Fall River hooked up, and they're huge rivals. They're only separated by a few miles of pavement on Highway 16, and so it's always exciting when they get together, and this one was no different. Rio ended up beating them 51-47 in overtime, and it was just an exciting game. Brendan Carney for Rio, he kind of had a slow start to the season scoring-wise, but he scored 18 of his 23 after halftime to kind of lead the charge. Phil Toney for Rio kind of hit a big three-pointer late in the game that kind of put Rio in front, and it was just an exciting game. And that Rio's got that small gym, and it was packed, from people from both communities, and it was just a great atmosphere, and it just stood out as an exciting game. And the other one was late in the season, also boys basketball. Portage, obviously, they didn't have a great season record-wise, only 3 wins, and this was they played Sauk Prairie in their last regular season game, and it was their last chance at getting a conference win in the Badger North. They ended up losing the game 57-55, but this was an exciting game. You could tell it meant a lot to Portage. A, because Sauk Prairie is somewhat of a rival to them, and B, like I said, it was their last chance at getting a conference win, which they wanted so bad. And it was an exciting game just because so many times Sauk Prairie looked like, they're going to go up by 10, double digits, and run away with it. Each time Portage clawed back, and Portage had a couple opportunities in the final minute to finally take a lead in the game and maybe hold on, but they just wouldn't go down, and it was just an exciting high school basketball game for a team that had a rough year. It would have been great for them to get the win, even though they didn't. It was fun to watch. So those two games jump out to me as for the winner.
Pretty nice highlights. I remember, I wasn't, obviously you were at both of those games, but I remember checking out and hearing from you after the game. It's pretty fun to hear about those. My highlight from this winter wasn't really a game necessarily. It was kind of a moment. We had gotten an email earlier in the fall that Ken Gravatt and his family, some of his family members, were going to be coming to Portage to watch a Portage boys basketball game at some point in the winter. And Ken, for those of you who don't know, it has the all-time single game scoring record, 48 points. And that goes all the way back to a game in 1958. Ken, who's just turned 70 over the winter, hadn't been back to Portage since he played. He had been back, but he hadn't been back to a game since he played in that game in 1958. So it was just really nice to see how much that record meant to him, how much coming back to kind of revisit some of those memories from his time playing basketball here, as well as that game. It was really nice to see how much it meant to him, and that kind of sticks out for me from all the stuff obviously that we did during the winter. Meanwhile, sticking with basketball, as we mentioned, the NCAA men's basketball tournament going on right now, and for Wisconsin fans, given the way they finished the season with that abysmal effort against Penn State and getting blown out of the gym by Ohio State, I don't know if there were many people that expected them to make the Sweet 16, even though they were a 4th seed. But sure enough, they did. They got by Kansas State last Saturday, and they're going to be playing Butler tonight in a Sweet 16 game. What sticks out to me from that game against Kansas State was, one, Jordan Taylor, who was 2 of 16 shooting, really struggled all night, but he found other ways to impact the game. He didn't turn the ball over once, which for a point guard, any turnover really in a close game could have been the difference. So he didn't turn the ball over. He had 6 assists, still scored 12 points, and of course had the big block shot of on Jacob Pullen's 3-point shot late in the game. So Jordan Taylor finds a way to impact the game, even on probably his worst performance of the season. And the other thing that stood out to me, Travis, was the fact that there were a couple moments in the game in the second half where it felt like Kansas State was going to pull away. They went ahead 57-54 with 4:59 left in the game. And you pointed out to me earlier today, I had not heard this, that Kansas State was 21-0 in games this season where they led with 5 minutes or less to go. So trailing by 3 there, the Badgers managed not to let Kansas State pull away and put that game away, and then obviously they made enough big plays down the stretch to win the game. So I just was really impressed with the way they finished in that game to move on. What about you? What did you think?
Yeah, what stood out to me in the 2 games for the Badgers was their 3-point shooting. I mean, everyone remembers that Penn State game in the Big Ten tournament. They were 2 of 21, 9% from 3-point land, which is awful, and that's a big reason why they scored 33 points. And so I thought, well, if they shoot like that, they're going to be in trouble. Well, they come out and they hit 12 of 22 from long range against Belmont, and then they hit 9 of 20 against Kansas State. So they hit exactly 50% of their 3-point shots, in those 2 tournament games. So that's a huge reason that they won those 2 games, and they're going to have a similar performance, I think, if they want to get to the Final Four. And the other thing that stood out to me was Mike Kruzewitz. I mean, this guy coming in, they didn't even know if he was going to play because he had a sprained knee from the Big Ten tournament. And not only does he play, he turns in 2 phenomenal performances, I thought. He had 11 points, 6 rebounds in the Kansas State victory, and the 2 nights before he got 8 points and 9 rebounds against Belmont. So, I mean, he was just a force, getting rebounds and shooting 3-pointers. He did it all. And I think kind of a telling thing, after the Kansas State game, Coach Frank Martin for Kansas State told him, I don't recruit Minnesota, where Bruzewitz is from, but if you have a brother, I'm going to come get him. He was that impressed with Bruzewitz's play. So he really stepped up, I thought, in those 2 games. And if he does it again, they might end up in Houston, maybe?
Well, it certainly would be, welcome for anybody around here if that happened.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be interesting to see. There was a lot made going into the tournament and really for large chunks of the conference season about where the Badgers were going to find role players. John Lure had a great season. Jordan Taylor had a great season. Keaton Nankoville, once the conference season started, really was playing well. But other than those 3, there wasn't much consistency from 4 and 5 and the bench.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they got it down in Tucson, and like you said, probably going to need it if they want to get through New Orleans to Houston for the Final Four. Which brings us back to my miserable picks from a week ago. In case you don't remember, I had Pittsburgh. They're gone. That's good for Badgers fans, by the way, but not for me. We did a coin flip on Notre Dame and Louisville, and as it turned out, it really didn't matter because they both got beat, and Texas couldn't get by Arizona. So Ohio State's all I have left. Travis had 3 of the 4 right.
Yeah.
Travis, do you want to change anything from, obviously you got to make a pick where Pittsburgh went out, but do you want to change anything else?
No, not really. I think Kansas is still going to get through the Southwest, mostly because they're by far the best team left in that region. All the other teams are double-digit seeds. I still like San Diego State to get out of the West, although they're probably going to have to beat UConn and Duke to do it. That'd be impressive, but I just like the way they play, and I think they can do it. Ohio State still, to me, is the best team in the country. They showed it with the way they played in the first 2 rounds. So I got them going, and I had Pittsburgh going. They're out. I got the Badgers going. I think all 4 of those teams in that Southeast region could make it. I wouldn't be surprised if whoever comes out of there, but I like the Badgers against Butler. Actually, that's the team that scares me the most is Butler. If they get by Butler, I like them against BYU or Florida. So I like their chances. I think Bucky might be dancing in the Final Four.
I hope you're right. And I agree that down in the Southeast Regional, there is probably at this point the most wide open. I think Florida's probably the most athletic of the bunch. but athleticism alone isn't going to necessarily always win you games. And obviously BYU has probably the best player in the country in Jimmer Fredette. So BYU is my pick for the Final Four down in that region, though I won't be surprised if any of the four make it. And then in Kansas's region, I'm going to pick Florida State, and basically I think if Florida State can get by Virginia Commonwealth and Kansas obviously can move on. Florida State has shown that they can play with top teams in the country. They beat Duke earlier in the season, and so and this being on a neutral court, I think plays a little bit towards Florida State's favor. I think at the very least they'll know that they can hang with Kansas from the tip. They won't be intimidated. So I'm going with Florida State there. I agree with you. I think Ohio State's the best team in the country, and I expect them to get to the Final Four. And then Duke. I think just with the veteran, they were there last year. They're getting healthy. Kyrie Irving's back, so I think Duke probably has the best shot to make it from that regional. But it should be interesting to see. Obviously, we're all excited that Wisconsin is still around again. They play tonight late 9 o'clock against Butler, so hopefully you can get somewhere and make it stay up till the end of the game. And we'll be back again next week to talk about and hopefully talk about how much better, at least for me, our Final Four picks were. So until next week, everybody take care.